Hello everyone, with thanks to DLM Machinery, welcome to another week of the NTFA Footy Show. Rick Fontaine with you. Another big show coming up with all our regular segments. Shortly our club in focus. This week we'll be paying attention to the South Launceston Football Club. We'll be joined by their coach Jack Maher. Women's footy, we'll take a look at the games coming up and the ladders because it is very, very tight at the moment, in particular the Premier Division. We'll also look at all the events coming up in our football around Tasmania. Plenty coming up over the course of the next few weeks, including this weekend. But we're going to kick it off, as we do every week, with our photo of the week. And this week, our winner, well, we're heading out to Deloraine Way. And a big thank you to Karen Lehman, who sent us in this picture from the Deloraine-Bracknell clash out at Deloraine last week. You can see Kobe Cook there from Deloraine in the ruck. Great photo. The legendary umpire Gary Kane in the background as well. So he's umpired over 700 games. So a great photo from Karen. So thank you for sending that in. And you are the winner of the 4-pack of Crafty Cuts with thanks to Little Rivers Brewing Company. We do it every week. As we always say, if you're out at the footy this week, make sure you send us in a photo and you might get to take home the prize pack next week. All right. We're going to take a look at men's footy now, and let's have a look at the state of play in the men's Premier Division because it is very interesting as we bring up the ladder. And as you can see, the top four, have a look at that. There is only one win separating the top four. Hillwood, Rochalee, Longford and South Launceston. It's fascinating at the moment. The match of the day last week, Longford and South Launceston ended up in a draw. A little bit of controversy. Some players and spectators not very happy with the decision that was paid very late. It did result in a goal, but at the end of the day, probably a pretty fair result between two very good teams. So there as we see, it is so tight. South Launceston in fourth have the best percentage in the competition as well. Bracknell, really important win for them last week to give a bit of daylight now. A couple of wins clear of Bridgenorth and Deloraine. Bridgenorth, well, they paid the price. They got beaten in the end by Georgetown, just Georgetown's second win of the season, upsetting them by 19 points down at Parrot Park. So 3 rounds left. That is going to make it very hard, particularly with percentage, to see that top 5 change. But certainly the positions wide open, particularly first to fourth. So let's have a look at what's coming up in round 16 of the NTFA Premier Division now. There are the matches for you on your screen. All the matches are on Saturday afternoon. Bracknell and Rochalee will meet out at Bracknell. That is at 2 o'clock. Big game there between two sides in the top 5. Scottsdale are at home to South Launceston. South, they haven't lost since round 7. That game also at 2 o'clock. Big rivalry here. Georgetown and Hillwood, always a big game. That is on Saturday afternoon at 2:30 down at Blue Gum Park, and also at 2:30 out at Longford. The reigning premiers are taking on Bridgenorth. Deloraine have got the bye this week. So that is the Premier Division for this week. Let's have a look at Division 1 and check out the ladder first of all after last weekend's round of matches. And there it is for you on your screen. And Old Scotch, well, they've pretty much got top spot on the ladder. Pretty well sewn up, you would think, now at this stage of the season. They are absolutely flying. The top 5 sides all played the bottom 5 and had wins. But Lilydale they were really pushed all the way by Bridport, eventually coming from behind and winning by just 8 points. There are just 2 rounds remaining in men's Division 1. And that is pretty much shut the door on all the sides outside the top 5. So you can pretty well see that the top 5 is now settled as we head into the last couple of weeks. But let's have a look at what is coming up. It is round 16 of NTFA Division 1. And Evandale are taking on Bridport. Now, just to take note for those wanting to see it, the senior game is actually getting underway at 12 o'clock at Morven Park, so an earlier time slot there. The reserves will follow that match. So 12 o'clock for the seniors out at Evandale. Old Launcestonians, they are taking on Perth. Lilydale are at home to the East Coast Swans. St Pat's take on Meander, and University of Tasmania are at home to top of the table Old Scotch. Those matches at 2 p.m. on Saturday. So that is the state of play in men's footy, Premier Division and also Division 1. Now, the Bogues MVP for the Player of the Year, getting down, of course, to the final few games. And here are the votes as decided by the coaches of each match. And we can see in the Premier Division, first of all, the round 15 votes. Rochalee captain Luke Richards, well, he picked up 5 votes in his side's win over Scottsdale. Jordan Cousins, he got a couple, so that keeps him right up there amongst the top at the moment in the MVP. Zach Burt and Adam Zenebra both had a day out in Georgetown's upset win over Bridgenorth down there at Bridgenorth last Saturday, whilst Lockie Cocker, he polled 5 votes in South Launceston's draw with Longford. And in the final game, Nick Mitchell and Sam Bellini each came away with 3 votes for Bracknell in their win over Deloraine. So that is votes in the Bogues MVP for the Premier Division. Let's have a look now at Division 1 and the votes from last weekend's matches. There they are, 4-rounder games in round 15. Some standout performances across the weekend as well. Lilydale's Thane Bardenhagen, as you can see, he picked up the maximum 6 votes. Also Mitchell Cheeseman from Old Launcestonians, Nathan James from St Pat's, along with John McKenzie from Old Scotch, all got 6 votes for best on ground in their respective matches. In the other game, Perth teammates William Haley and Josiah Burling, they picked up 3 votes apiece for Perth in their win over the East Coast Swans. So that is the state of play with a few weeks remaining. You'll see we're not putting leaderboards up there at the moment. We're going to keep everyone in suspense. But when the home and away season is finished, right here on the NTFA Footy Show, we will be announcing all the winners of the Bogues MVP and making presentations to those. So keep an eye out for that one, I think coming up on the 24th of August. So that's a bit of a wrap on men's footy. Stick with us. Our Club in Focus is coming up after the break.
Durable, reliable, heavy duty. Get the power you need from the people who know machinery. For sales, parts, servicing and expert advice, call DLM Machinery today or visit dlmmachinery.com.au.
Welcome back to the NTFA Footy Show. It is time now, of course, for our weekly segment, Club in Focus. Well, our next side, they are probably one of the big improvers in the NTFA in season 2023, and with just a few weeks left until the finals. It's going to be a thrilling final series, let me tell you, as we saw a little earlier with the ladder, 1 win separating first from fourth, and the coach of the South Launceston Bulldogs has been good enough to join us this week with thanks to Harrison Agents. Jack Mark, g'day. Good to see you, mate.
Good to see you too, mate.
What a season it's been. I mean, your first year at the helm of South Launceston. The team is going very well. You have beaten every team in the 5, other than, of course, Longford last week, where you had that draw. How are you assessing it a month out from the finals?
Yeah, it's been quite an interesting year. We always knew we were going to be a little bit slow starting. New game plan, a lot of new faces. And we weren't too sure with our youth how they were going to come on. But they've been sensational this year. The buy-in from everyone, you know, from the seniors, reserves, unders has been sensational. And yeah, we kind of got on a little bit of a run, and we're just, you know, continuing that on, hopefully.
You are, well, unbeaten since round 7. The draw against Longford last week, we won't go into this too much, but I was up there. There was a little bit of controversy in the last few minutes, but everyone seemed to hold their nerve pretty well, and everyone left the field reasonably happy last Saturday. But great measure against the reigning premiers in tough conditions. But how did you assess that game with Longford? Obviously not the win, but a very competitive match.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, we have great respect for Longford. Obviously reigning premiers. You know, probably waking up a lot of people thought that was, you know, they were going to be their conditions. But we matched it with them, which was really good. You know, kicked with the wind in that last quarter, and we just couldn't get the job done in the end. But you know, we took a lot of learnings from that, a lot of positives, and yeah, hopefully, you know, we face them in a few weeks' time in a final series. So yeah,
no doubt. You've just re-signed for another season up at the Kennel, but I'd like you to tell me a little bit about Jay Blackberry. There's a photo here of the two of you at the announcement, but one of Tasmania's most decorated footballers probably over the last decade or so. What influence has it been? I guess it's important to point out as well, he's back at his old club. A lot of people, they might go to a club here or there, but he's back at his old club after obviously that great career with a few years with Launceston in the TSL. But what difference has he made to the team on and off the field?
Massive. Obviously, he's a really good mate of mine, and we wanted to connect. He was always a better footballer than me, so we were able to connect. And what he brings, he's a decorated, sensational footballer, but his football mind is, one of the best that I've met. The way he reads the game and takes it all in is unbelievable. But the young kids, he spends a lot of time with them, Tuesday, Thursday nights, where they can improve. And he does drive a hard bargain, but that's good. Mate, he's been sensational for the club.
I guess it's that level of professionalism and demand at that higher level of football that he's been used to. So I guess with the changes that are going to be happening in football, particularly at the end of 2024, heading into 25, the NTFA all of a sudden becomes a real premier competition in Tasmania. So having him now is probably just a blessing.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's definitely brought them standards in, which has been sensational. And as I spoke about before, for the young kids to buy into that, that's probably holding us in good stead at the moment. And hopefully it holds us in good stead for the next 3 weeks, and then hopefully a deep run in the finals.
Well, the club itself is having a great year because I want to touch on the women as well. We've got a photo here of them celebrating winning the grand final at UTAS Stadium last year. Look at the weather there compared to now.
Yeah.
We look forward to that in September. But the level that they've performed at, winning Division 1, but now in the Premier Division, they're 4th at the moment, which would see them make the finals if they can stay there. It says a lot about the club and the depth and the young talent that have, particularly through your junior pathway that you've got coming through.
Yeah, absolutely. So Az has done an awesome job the last 2 years there. Obviously, I think a lot of people forget about Az's decorated coaching career in the male side, but he's been able to lift some big standards there. And we're starting to see the junior program start coming through our football club on the women's side. And I know Azza does a lot of work, and I'm obviously doing a lot of work on the male side of it. But yeah, we're starting to see that come through, which is quite exciting.
A lot of traditionalists out there, and they love their local football club. And South Launceston obviously is a very historic club. Started in 1986, I think it was, when City South and East Launceston, 2 very famous clubs for veterans of my age, Jack, who remember them. But they've obviously won a TSL premiership back in the day, I think 2013. Tell us about the club and what you love about South Launceston Football Club.
Yep, I'm starting to obviously taking on the coaching role this year. You get to meet a lot of the older players, and they're starting to come through, and they've got plenty of stories, and it has obviously a rich vein of history and a lot of success. And I guess, it's awesome listening to them stories and getting them people back to the club, which is starting to happen now, which is really good. And hopefully, we can add to that success. It's really good.
And what do you think, just finally, with the NTFA, forget about the changes that are obviously going to happen because it's 18 months away, but the competition, do you think the competition is getting better every year? Because we look at it at the moment, as we mentioned in the intro, there's only 1 win separating first from 4th. But how are you finding the standard and the level of football? Because you've seen a lot. Yeah,
absolutely. It's definitely lifting, and it does help that there's players coming back, from the TSL level. But I just think the standards and all that have really lifted now. I think people in the back of their minds, know where we want to be in a few years' time. So we're starting to bring them things in now. And yeah, I mean, the standard, I think you can put, a doona over all 5 sides. So yeah, it's going to be quite an interesting finish to the year, which is going to be exciting. And any team on their day is going to win it. So
we're looking forward to it. Thank you for coming on and being part of our show this week, Jack. And good luck to South Launceston and the men and women. I know it's going to be a big month, and as you said, you could throw a blanket over the top 5, I reckon, at the moment. So it should be a great year.
Yep.
Thanks for coming on.
Thanks, mate.
Jack Maher joining us here on the NTFA Footy Show, coach of the South Launceston Football Club. We'll have another club next week here on the show for our Club in Focus with thanks to Harrison's. We turn our attention to women's footy next. Don't go away.
Durable, reliable, heavy duty. Get the power you need from the people who know machinery. For sales, parts, servicing and expert advice, call DLM Machinery today or visit dlmmachinery.com.au.
Great to have your company on the NTFA Footy Show with thanks to DLM Machinery. It is now time to focus on women's football with a big thank you to Cleanaway for their great support of women's footy. And I'm solo today. Abby, unfortunately, unable to be with us here this week, but we are going to give a comprehensive wrap on where things are at in women's football. Firstly, starting with the Premier Division, let's take a look at the ladder because this is getting very, very interesting. There it is, the Premier Division ladder for the women. As you can see, Bridgnorth are still way out in front on top of the ladder. Now, there were some very, very interesting results on the weekend. A couple of upsets in round 12. Scottsdale, 5th, they upset Old Scotch by a goal. And South Launceston, well, they were convincing 20-point winners in the end over an inaccurate Old Launcestonians. That's not why Abby's not here today, of course, the playing coach of Old Launcestonians, but that was a big win for South Launceston. So what it has actually done is made that top 4 still right up in the air because Scottsdale are just half a win behind South Launceston. Bridgnorth are going to finish on top of the table. They remain undefeated after thrashing Launceston. But as I said, that race for 4th, well, that is well and truly on, and very interesting game coming up this weekend. Let me tell you, let's have a look at what's coming up in the Premier Division this weekend in women's football right now. And as you can see, it all gets underway on Friday night down at Parrot Park. Bridgnorth are taking on Old Scotch. That should be an absolute beauty between those two. That is at 7 o'clock. It is, of course, 1st versus 3rd. Then on Saturday, 10:25, Old Launcestonians are at home to Launceston at Invermay Park. But this is the match. It's almost like a little mini elimination final up at Scottsdale. Scottsdale are taking on South Launceston. 4th versus 5th. Scottsdale win, they're in the 4. And if the Bulldogs win, well, they're just about there to finish in the finals, which would be an outstanding result for them after coming up from Division 1 last season after winning the premiership. So what a game that's going to be up at Scottsdale. So anyone up around there, do yourself a favour. That'll be a cracker. Let's have a look now at Division 1 women's football and check out the ladders. And there it is. We've got Meander Valley. They're on top of the table still with 11.5 wins. Of course, had that draw a few weeks ago against Deloraine. That is probably very unlikely now that they're, particularly with that percentage, look at that, 774%. They'll finish on top of the ladder. There were quite a bit of quite a lot of good football played on the weekend, actually, in the matches that there were. There were just the 2 matches last week, but they were wins for Evandale over East Coast, and Meander were too strong for Georgetown, but it was good to see East Coast kick a few goals. They've had their struggles this year. Of course, they are winless, but were pretty competitive against Evandale for a fair portion of that match last weekend, which is terrific to see. Georgetown, they are in 4th position at the moment, a win and pretty decent percentage ahead of Evandale. Longford there with a couple of wins. But we'll have a look now at the matches coming up in Division 1 this weekend. The maths is pretty simple for Evandale in particular. They've got to win their last 2. They've also got to hope that Georgetown lose to Hillwood, as well as we have a look at the matches there. Evandale are playing against Deloraine. That is at Morven Park. 10:25 out at Evandale this Saturday morning. Georgetown are at home to Hillwood. That game at 10:55. And Longford are playing Meander Valley at 10:55 as well out at Longford. Evandale play Georgetown in the final round. So depending on results coming up this weekend. That could be a very, very key game as well. So plenty to play for Evandale and Georgetown in Division 1. Okay, let's have a look at the Bogues MVP, our Player of the Year, Most Valuable Player of the Year, and the votes for last weekend. There they are for NTFA Premier Division Women. Round 12 votes. You can see Deanne Taylor. She had a terrific game for Scottsdale, polled 5 votes in their great win over Old Scotch. Crucial win that was for the Magpies, as we said a little earlier. Alice Robinson and Emily McKinnell from Bridgenorth. They kicked 12 goals between them in their win over Launceston, each of them picking up 3 votes in that clash. And Taylor Weldon was terrific for South Launceston in their upset win over Old Launcestonians. She collected 4 votes in that particular match. So that's the Premier Division MVP. And finally, let's have a look at Division 1 and the votes for the 2 matches that were played last weekend. Firstly to East Coast and Evandale. Portia Hamilton, she polled 5 votes for Evandale in their win over the Swans. Georgia Rowley picked up 3. And in the Meander Valley Georgetown match, Meander teammates Tiffany Whitney, Kia Rogers and Charlie Giddens all picking up 3 votes. They got the major votes in that game down there at Westbury on the weekend. So that is the MVP votes for this week. As we said a little earlier, we will be announcing the winners in a special show coming up on the 24th of August at the end of the home and away season. That's women's footy with thanks to Cleanaway. We'll take a quick break. Football around Tasmania. That's coming up next.
Durable, reliable, heavy duty. Get the power you need from the people who know machinery. For sales, parts, servicing and expert advice, call DLM Machinery today or visit dlmmachinery.com.au.
All right, we're almost at the end of another show of the NTFA Footy Show with thanks to DLM Machinery, but now time to look at football around Tasmania with thanks to Little Rivers Brewing Company. And we're going to start off with a special day coming up at Newnham campus of the University of Tasmania. That is the home ground of University of Tasmania. As you see, they've got their big Pink Day, annual Pink Day coming up this Saturday afternoon. A big game for them. They'll be wearing their pink Guernseys. There's going to be raffles, auction. Get along and support it. It's always a terrific day for the club if you can this Saturday. They'll also be playing for the Butson Jordan Cup, these 2 teams. University of Tasmania taking on the top of the table Old Scotch. So that's round 16 action in NTFA Division 1. Now, the annual South Launceston AFL Grand Final Luncheon always sells out. Very, very popular. Tickets are now on sale, so you want to get in pretty quick for this. It is going to be on Friday, the 29th of September. Traditionally, of course, it is always the day before the AFL Grand Final. As I said, it sells out very quick. Great lineup, although not quite sure about the bloke on the right there, but I might be asking a few questions. But certainly the other 3, Simon Black, Tim Payne and Michael Roberts will be the guest speakers at the luncheon this year. Details on the screen. Tony Rosier, she's the one you need to contact. Tony at rosierconstructions.com.au, but you can also head to the South Launceston Football Club's Facebook page, which is the SLFC Bulldogs. All the details are on there, but get that one in your diary. It's always a great day up at the Country Club. Another great day coming up is this Saturday for Meander Valley. It is Ladies' Day for 2023 from 12 o'clock till 4. It is just $25, includes nibbles, a couple of drinks as well. You do need to book, so jump onto the Meander Valley Football Club Facebook page. It's the final home game of the season for the men. The women have got the bye, so they'll have a fantastic afternoon. As you can see, the details are on your screen, but head to their Facebook page. You can grab all the details as well. Now, this is a great story because he has done so much, not only for his club, but football. But Sauce Price, Jeff Price, terrific news during the week that he's been elevated to legend status at Old Scotch Collegians Football Club. He joined Old Scotch back in 1972. There he is, the legend, Sauce. He's been on the committee for all of those years, 51 years of service to Old Scotch, an inaugural living legend of the NTFA Hall of Fame and a past winner of the very prestigious Clary Boone Awards. So on behalf of everyone here at the NTFA Footy Show, and I know the local footy community, Sauce, well done, and thank you for your great contribution to football. Now, finally, this is starting to creep up pretty quickly because this is actually going to be an absolutely cracking night. The 1990 Tasmanian State of Origin team reunion, 33 years ago, if you can believe that, the day Tasmania beat Victoria down in Hobart. Friday, the 6th of October. There are still tickets available, but it is limited. Here are the details. They're on your screen, or you can also head to Relive the Rivalry Facebook page for all the details, including on how to get hold of the tickets. It's going to be an amazing night. Just about everyone, I think, bar Graham Wright, who's got commitments with Collingwood, I think, for their big night, will be there from Tasmania. You can see some of the faces there that'll be there. David Parkin and Robert Shaw, who were, of course, the coach, and Darren Pritchard and Gary Ayres, who was captains for their respective states as well. So that's going to be an absolutely fantastic night. Hope you can get along. Well, that is all we've got time for on the NTFA Footy Show this week. A big thank you once again to DLM Machinery. We're getting closer to the finals, so it's going to be another big show next week. We hope you can join us. Goodbye.